The morning air felt cool against Lily's skin as she walked through the iron gates of Pinecrest Cemetery. She gripped the bouquet of white roses tightly, her knuckles almost as pale as the flowers. Today marked 2 years since Thomas had been taken from her, 2 years that felt both like an eternity and just yesterday. The cemetery was quiet except for the occasional bird call and the soft crunch of gravel under her boots. Lily knew the path by heart now. Third row from the east entrance, 14 graves in, beneath the old oak tree that cast dappled shadows across the polished granite. But today, something was different. As she rounded the curve in the path, she slowed her steps. Someone was already there, kneeling beside Thomas's headstone. A young girl, maybe 13 or 14 years old, dark skin contrasting with a bright yellow dress. Her braided hair was pulled back with a ribbon that matched her dress, and her slender shoulders shook slightly. Lily froze, unsure what to do. Who was this child? Why was she crying at her husband's grave? The girl hadn't noticed her yet. Lily watched as she carefully placed a handmade card against the stone. Next to it, she set down a small, well-worn teddy bear with a blue ribbon around its neck. Her fingers lingered on the bear, as if reluctant to leave it behind. He always said Mr. Buttons helped him feel brave when he was little, the girl whispered to the grave. I thought maybe you'd want him back now. Lily's breath caught in her throat. Mr. Buttons. Thomas had mentioned that bear once, saying his mother had given it away during a move. How did this girl have it? The young visitor wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, then stood. She touched the top of the headstone gently, like a farewell pat on the shoulder, before turning to leave. When she spotted Lily standing on the path, the girl's eyes widened. For a moment, they just stared at each other, the white widow in her black dress and the young black girl in yellow, connected by their shared grief over a man who, apparently, had meant something to both of them. The girl recovered first, giving a small, awkward nod before hurrying past Lily toward the cemetery entrance. Lily called out, "Wait," but the girl kept walking, quickening her pace until she disappeared around a hedge. On shaky legs, Lily approached her husband's grave. The girl's offering sat next to the now wilted flowers Lily had brought last week. The handmade card featured a carefully drawn rocket ship soaring through stars. Inside, in neat handwriting, missing our math sessions. I got an A on my exam. You would have been proud. A. Math sessions. Thomas had been an engineer, but he'd never mentioned tutoring anyone. Lily's mind raced, trying to find an explanation that didn't make her stomach twist with dread. She sank onto the bench across from the grave, still clutching her undelivered roses. The question swirled like autumn leaves in her mind. Who was A? How had she gotten Thomas's childhood teddy bear? What else had her husband kept from her? Their marriage had seemed so transparent, so honest. They'd shared everything, or so she'd thought. Lily stared at the teddy bear with its faded blue ribbon. A piece of Thomas's childhood she'd never even seen, now delivered by a stranger. She pulled out her phone, scrolling through old photos of Thomas, searching his smile for secrets. Had there been signs she'd missed? Moments when he'd seemed distant or distracted. Late nights at work or unexplained absences. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on her chest until it hurt to breathe. Tears blurred her vision as she looked back at the grave, at the name carved into stone. Thomas James Walker, beloved husband. And what else? What other roles had he played that she knew nothing about? Lily wiped her eyes and took a deep breath. She would come back tomorrow, same time. And if the girl returned, Lily would be ready with questions. She needed to know the truth, even if it broke her heart all over again. She finally approached the grave and laid her roses beside the teddy bear and card. As she traced Thomas's name on the cold stone, she whispered, "What didn't you tell me? And why?" The only answer was the rustling of leaves in the old oak tree above, secrets carried away by the autumn wind. Lily barely slept that night. She tossed and turned, dreaming of Thomas and a faceless girl laughing together while she stood watching from behind glass. She woke before dawn, her pillow damp with tears she didn't remember crying. All week, she went through the motions at her job at the library, shelving books with mechanical precision while her mind replayed the cemetery scene over and over. Her coworker noticed her distraction during lunch. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she said, pushing a cup of tea toward Lily. Maybe I have, Lily replied softly. How could she explain the storm of emotions inside her? That in some ways, discovering this unknown connection in Thomas's life made her feel like she was losing him all over again. By Friday, Lily had made up her mind. She would go back to the cemetery at the same time as before. If the girl returned, Lily would speak to her. She needed answers, even if those answers might hurt. The weather had turned cooler. Lily wrapped herself in Thomas's old cardigan, the one that still smelled faintly of his cologne, and made her way through the cemetery gates. Her heart raced as she approached the grave, half hoping to find it empty. But there she was again, the girl. This time she was placing fresh wildflowers in a small jar beside the headstone. She wore jeans and a purple sweater, her hair in the same neat braids as before. Lily took a deep breath and stepped forward deliberately, making enough noise with her footsteps that the girl looked up. Recognition flashed in her eyes, followed by uncertainty. She stood quickly, as if ready to flee again. Please don't run, Lily said, her voice gentler than she planned. I just want to talk. The girl hesitated, shifting her weight from one foot to the other. I don't think I should. You knew my husband, Lily said. It wasn't a question. The girl nodded slowly. Yes, ma'am. I'm Lily, she said, moving closer but still keeping a respectful distance. And you are? The girl bit her lip, considering. Elena, she finally answered. Elena, Lily repeated, tasting the name of this stranger who somehow shared her grief. How did you know Thomas? Elena looked down at her sneakers. He helped me with math and science. He was really good at explaining things. He was a tutor. This aligned with the note she'd found last week, but it didn't explain the teddy bear, or why Thomas had never mentioned this girl in 2 years of marriage. Kind of, Aaliyah said. It started that way. A car horn honked in the distance, making them both jump. Aaliyah glanced over her shoulder. That's my grandmother. I have to go. Wait, Lily said, taking a step forward. Please, I need to understand. Thomas never told me about you. Something like hurt flickered across Aaliyah's face, but she quickly masked it. I'm not surprised, she said quietly. He was trying to figure out the right time. The right time for what? Lily pressed, feeling her chest tighten. The horn sounded again, more insistent. I really have to go, Aaliyah said, backing away. My grandmother doesn't like to wait. Will you be here next week? Lily asked desperately. Aaliyah hesitated. No, but she pulled a small notebook from her pocket, tore out a page, and scribbled something before handing it to Lily. We could meet somewhere else, if you really want to know. Lily looked down at the paper. The Sunnyside Diner, Sunday, 2 p.m. My grandmother will come too, Aaliyah added. She'll explain better than I can. Before Lily could respond, Aaliyah was hurrying away, her purple sweater soon disappearing among the gravestones. Lily turned back to Thomas's grave, noticing the wildflowers Aaliyah had brought. Not store-bought, but meadow flowers probably picked on the way. The kind of thoughtful, personal touch that spoke of genuine connection. Who is she to you? Sunday arrived with gray skies threatening rain. Lily changed her outfit 3 times before settling on a simple blue dress that Thomas had always liked. She wanted to look put together, not like the mess she felt inside. The Sunnyside Diner sat on the corner of Main and Oak, its windows fogged with the steam of coffee and conversation. Lily arrived 15 minutes early, choosing a booth at the back where she could see the door. Her fingers drummed nervously on the laminated menu as she ordered a coffee she didn't really want. You want cream with that, honey? The waitress asked. Yes, please, Lily answered automatically, though she usually took it black. Her stomach was too knotted for her to think about preferences. At exactly 2 o'clock, the bell above the door jingled. Elena stepped in, followed by an older woman with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a neat bun. The woman's eyes scanned the diner until they locked with Lily's. There was something in that gaze, a mixture of caution and resolution that made Lily's heart beat faster. Elena spotted Lily and nudged her grandmother, who nodded and placed a protective hand on the girl's shoulder as they made their way to the booth. Mrs. Walker? The older woman asked, though it was clear she already knew the answer. Lily nodded. Please, call me Lily. I'm Pearl, the woman said, her voice deep and melodious. Thank you for meeting us." They slid into the booth across from Lily, Pearl on the outside, as if positioning herself between her granddaughter and whatever might happen next. The waitress returned with Lily's coffee and took their orders, a hot chocolate for Aaliyah and tea for Pearl. No one spoke until she walked away. "I haven't been completely honest with you," Aaliyah finally said, looking at her grandmother for reassurance. "Thomas wasn't just my tutor," she continued. "He was helping me apply for the Westridge Academy scholarship, for kids who are good at science and math." Pearl squeezed her granddaughter's hand proudly. "Aaliyah won it last spring. Full ride to the best STEM school in the state." "Thomas was very excited about it," Aaliyah added, a small smile briefly lighting her face before fading. "He said I had a gift for numbers, like him." Lily's coffee sat untouched, growing cold. That's wonderful," she managed. "But why didn't he ever mention you to me? 2 years of marriage, and not once did he talk about tutoring a gifted student." Pearl and Aaliyah exchanged a look that sent a chill down Lily's spine. "Thomas came into Aaliyah's life about 2 years ago," Pearl explained carefully, "through the Brothers and Sisters Mentorship program at her school." Lily frowned. 2 years? But we were already married then." Pearl nodded. "Yes, and at first it was just weekly tutoring sessions at the library. But then he saw my science fair project," Aaliyah jumped in. "It was about using algae to clean water. He got really excited and said I could do something important with my ideas, but I needed a better school. So he helped her prepare for the scholarship," Pearl continued. "Extra sessions, recommendation letters, practice interviews. He was very invested in her success. But why hide it from me?" Lily pressed, her voice cracking slightly. "Was he—" She couldn't bring herself to finish the thought. Pearl's eyes widened with understanding. "Oh, honey, no, nothing like that. Thomas was a good man. A man trying to do right." "Then what?" Lily asked, fighting back tears. "What was he hiding?" The waitress returned with their drinks, forcing a pause in the conversation. Lily noticed how Lily's world tilted on its axis. She gripped the edge of the table, staring at the photograph as if it might change if she looked hard enough. Thomas with another woman. Thomas with a baby. Thomas with a whole other life she knew nothing about. "I need to go," she whispered, grabbing her purse. She threw some money on the table and rushed out of the diner, ignoring Pearl calling after her. The rain had started, fat drops splashing against the sidewalk. Lily didn't care. She walked blindly, her mind replaying every moment of her marriage, searching for clues she'd missed. The late nights working. The mysterious phone calls he'd step outside to take. The weekends spent helping a friend with a project. Somehow she found herself at home, soaked to the skin and shivering. She went straight to Thomas's office, a room she'd barely entered since his death. Everything was just as he'd left it, the organized desk, the bookshelves lined with engineering texts, the framed photo of their wedding day. Had it all been a lie? Lily began pulling open drawers, searching through papers, looking for, what? Proof? Denial? Something to make sense of what Pearl had shown her. In the bottom drawer of his filing cabinet, behind folders marked taxes and insurance, she found it. A plain manila envelope labeled simply A with trembling fingers, she opened it. Inside were photos of Aaliyah at what must have been science fairs and school events. After hanging up, Lily gathered the scattered papers and photos, placing them carefully back in the envelope. Then she curled up in Thomas's office chair, hugging the envelope to her chest, and finally let herself cry for the husband she'd lost, for the truth she'd never known, and for the girl who shared her grief from a different angle. For 2 weeks, Lily avoided the cemetery. She called in sick to work, letting her voicemail fill with concerned messages from co-workers. She barely ate, barely slept. The manila envelope sat on her nightstand, a constant reminder of the husband she thought she knew completely, and the one she apparently hadn't known at all. On the 15th day, Lily's older sister Brooke showed up unannounced, grocery bags in hand. "Your boss called me," Brooke explained, pushing past Lily into the house. She was worried. Now I see why. Lily watched numbly as Brooke moved around the kitchen, putting away groceries and starting a pot of soup. "You look terrible," Brooke said bluntly, the way only a sister could. "Thanks," Lily replied, her voice hoarse from disuse. Brooke nodded at the envelope on the coffee table. What's that? Lily hesitated, then handed it over. She watched her sister's eyes widen as she flipped through the contents. Oh, Lily, Brooke whispered. Did you know? Lily asked. Did anyone know? Brooke shook her head. No, I had no idea. She sat beside Lily on the couch. What are you going to do? Lily stared out the window. Rain tapped against the glass, creating streaks like tears. I don't know. I'm so angry with him. But then I look at these. She gestured at the photos. And I see him trying to be a good father to a child he never knew he had. How can I be angry at him for that? You can be angry he didn't tell you, Brooke pointed out. That's fair. But would I have understood? If he'd come home one day and said, surprise, I have a teenage daughter from before we met, would I have handled it well? Brooke squeezed her hand. Maybe not at first, but you would have come around. I'll never know now, Lily said softly. That night, after Brooke left with a promise to check in tomorrow, Lily pulled out Thomas's laptop. She hadn't touched it since the funeral. The password prompt blinked at her. She tried their anniversary. Access denied. She tried his birthday. Access denied. On a hunch, she typed Aliyah. The screen unlocked. Tears pricked her eyes. Even his password had been a secret. She found a folder labeled Scholarship. Inside were drafts of a recommendation letter Thomas had written for Aliyah. Lily read it, her heart aching at his obvious pride. In my 15 years as an engineer, I have never encountered a young mind with such natural aptitude for problem-solving. Aliyah approaches challenges with both creativity and methodical precision. Her project on algae-based water purification shows remarkable insight into environmental issues. Beyond her academic abilities, Aliyah demonstrates persistence in the face of significant personal challenges. Having lost her mother at a young age, she channels her grief into determination. The Westridge Academy would be fortunate to count her among its students, and I'd give her my highest recommendation not just as her mentor, but as someone who has witnessed firsthand her extraordinary potential. Another document caught her eye, letter to Lily. Docs. Her hand shook as she clicked it open. My dearest Lily, by the time you read this, I will have told you about Aliyah. I hope you can forgive me for waiting so long. I want to explain why I kept this from you. When I received Darlin's letter telling me I had a daughter, I was shocked. We had only dated briefly in college before I moved for my first job. She never told me she was pregnant. Her letter explained she thought she could raise Aliyah alone, and by the time she realized she was sick, too many years had passed. I met Aliyah 2 days after getting the letter. Looking into her eyes was like seeing myself at 13, curious, a bit shy, and fascinated by how things work. I knew immediately she was mine. I was afraid to tell you, afraid it would change how you saw me, afraid it would damage what we have. Instead of bringing my two worlds together, I kept them apart. That was wrong of me. You are the love of my life, Lily. That has never changed. And Aliyah is my daughter. I hope with time you can find room in your heart for her too. Not to replace the family we plan to build together, but to add to it. All my love. Thomas. The letter was dated 3 days before the accident. He'd been so close to telling her. Lily closed the laptop, her mind made up. Tomorrow, she would call Pearl. Lily sat in her car outside Pearl's modest brick house, trying to gather her courage. She'd called that morning, and Pearl had invited her over immediately. Aliyah's at school, she'd said. We can talk freely. The front door opened before Lily could knock, as if Pearl had been watching for her. Thank you for coming, Pearl said, ushering her into a living room filled with family photos. Lily's eyes immediately found Aliyah's school pictures arranged in a timeline on one wall, and there, placed somewhat awkwardly among them, was a framed photo of Thomas with Aliyah at what looked like a science fair. Pearl followed her gaze. We didn't have many pictures of them together. He was always careful. The words stung. Careful, secretive, hidden. They sat on a floral couch that had seen better days. Pearl offered tea, which Lily declined. I've been trying to understand, Lily began. I found Thomas's letter on his computer, the one he never got to give me. Pearl's eyes softened. He wanted to make things right. He talked about it every time he came here. How often was that? Lily asked, not sure she wanted the answer. Once a week at first, just for tutoring. Then twice a week as the scholarship deadline got closer. Pearl hesitated. He was never here when you might be looking for him. Early mornings mostly, before work. Sometimes Sunday afternoons when you visited your mother. The careful planning made Lily's chest ache. All those Sundays when she thought he was working or watching football, he had been here, being a father to a girl Lily didn't know existed. I found the scholarship recommendation he wrote, Lily said. He was very proud of her. Pearl smiled. He had every reason to be. That girl has a mind like a steel trap, just like her father. Was he? Lily struggled to form the question. Was he happy when he was here? Pearl considered this. Happy isn't quite the word. Torn, I think. Excited to know Aaliyah, but guilty about keeping her from you. She leaned forward. He loved that girl from the moment he met her. But he loved you completely too. That's what made it so hard for him. Lily nodded, tears threatening again. She'd cried more in the past month than in her entire life. Aaliyah asks about you, Pearl said quietly. She feels terrible about how you found out. It wasn't her fault, Lily said automatically. No, but she thinks it was wrong of us to visit the grave when you might be there. Pearl sighed. That child has a strong sense of right and wrong. After you ran out of the diner, she told me we should have written to you first, prepared you somehow. She's probably right, Lily admitted. Finding her there was shocking. Pearl stood up and went to her desk in the corner, returning with a small wooden box. Thomas left this for Aaliyah. He brought it over the week before the accident. Said it was in case anything ever happened to him. She placed it in Lily's hands. I think you should see what's inside. The box was smooth, polished oak with Aaliyah's name carved on the lid. Inside, Lily found a letter in Thomas's handwriting, several small jewelry boxes, and a folded piece of paper. The letter was addressed to Aaliyah, telling her how proud he was to be her father and how sorry he was for the years they'd missed. Lily set it aside, feeling like an intruder. The jewelry boxes contained a watch that had belonged to Thomas's father, a simple gold chain, and a pair of tiny pearl earrings. Family heirlooms, Lily realized. Things he'd been saving. The folded paper was a house listing. Lily recognized the address. It was only 2 streets over from their home. At the top, Thomas had written, possible option. Discuss with Lily after talk. Pearl watched Lily's face. He was looking for a house for us, somewhere close to you both. He thought maybe, once everything was in the open, we could all be nearby. A proper family, even if an unusual one. He was planning a whole future, Lily whispered. Yes, Pearl said simply. A future with both of you in it. Lily closed the box carefully. Her anger was still there, but alongside it now was something else. A growing understanding of the impossible situation Thomas had found himself in, and the lengths he'd gone to trying to make it right. Would you like to meet Aaliyah properly? Pearl asked. Not as a secret or a shock, but as Thomas's daughter. Lily hesitated only briefly. Yes, she said. I think it's time. 3 months had passed since Lily's visit to Pearl's house. The leaves had changed and fallen, and the first dusting of snow covered the cemetery as Lily pulled into the parking lot. She was early, just as she planned to be. Thomas's grave looked different in winter, starker. The colorful flowers were gone, replaced by an evergreen wreath Lily had brought last week. She brushed some snow from the top of the headstone and set down the thermos she'd brought. You should have told me, she said to the cold stone. But I think I understand why you couldn't. The sound of footsteps crunching on snow made her turn. Aaliyah approached slowly, bundled in a blue coat and matching hat that Pearl had likely knitted. Since their first proper meeting 2 months ago, Lily and Aaliyah had been taking small steps toward knowing each other. A lunch here, an afternoon at the library there. Always with Pearl nearby at first, then gradually on their own. I thought I might find you here, Aaliyah said. Lily smiled. It's a big day. Aaliyah nodded, her eyes on the grave. I miss him. Is that weird? I only knew him for 2 years. It's not weird at all, Lily said gently. Sometimes the time doesn't matter as much as the connection. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, their breath forming small clouds in the cold air. Are you nervous about today? Lily asked. Alea shrugged, trying to seem casual though her fingers fidgeted with her coat zipper. A little. What if I don't fit in? You got in on your own merits, Lily reminded her. The scholarship committee doesn't make mistakes. Today was Alea's first day at Westridge Academy, the prestigious school Thomas had helped her apply to. Pearl had asked if Lily would mind dropping Alea off since she had a doctor's appointment. I brought something for you, Lily said, reaching into her pocket. She pulled out a small box wrapped in silver paper. A little good luck charm. Alea unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a silver compass on a chain. She looked up, confused. It was Thomas's, Lily explained. His father gave it to him when he went to college. He always said it helped him find his way when things got tough. She swallowed hard. He would have wanted you to have it. Alea's eyes filled with tears. She clutched the compass tightly. Thank you, she whispered. Here, let me, Lily said, taking the necklace and fastening it around Alea's neck. Perfect. Alea touched the compass, then suddenly threw her arms around Lily. It was their first hug, awkward but genuine. Lily hesitated only a moment before hugging her back. He'd be so proud of you today, Lily said, her voice thick with emotion. I think he'd be proud of both of us, Alea replied, stepping back and wiping her eyes. For finding each other. Lily smiled, thinking of the past 3 months. The anger and hurt hadn't disappeared completely, but they had made room for something new, something that felt like family, albeit an unexpected one. We should go, Lily said, checking her watch. Don't want to be late on your first day. As they turned to leave, Alea paused. Could we come back this weekend? I want to tell him how it went. Of course, Lily said. We can bring hot chocolate. He always loved hot chocolate in winter. With extra marshmallows, Alea added, then looked surprised at herself. Lily raised an eyebrow. You know about the marshmallows? Alea nodded. He always put way too many in. Said life was too short for just one marshmallow. Lily laughed, a real laugh that felt good in her chest. Exactly what he used to tell me. They walked back to the car together, leaving fresh footprints in the snow. As Lily started the engine, she glanced at Alea adjusting the compass around her neck, making sure it was centered. In the rearview mirror, Thomas's grave grew smaller as they drove away. But for the first time, Lily didn't feel like she was leaving him behind. Instead, sitting beside her was a living connection to the man they'd both had loved, a bridge between past and future that neither of them had expected but both now treasured. Ready? Lily asked. Alea took a deep breath and nodded, her eyes bright with anticipation. Ready. And together, they drove toward a new beginning.